Today, I'm going to show you how to record frame rates above 60 frames per second in a Canon cinema camera. If you're like me, I got my C80 and I was like, wait a minute, I know this shoots 4K 120. How come I can't find this frame rate? And I think a lot of you are going to be exposed to this given the announcement and the arrival of the Canon C50. So today, I'm going to be using my C80, but this is going to apply to really any Canon cinema camera that uses cinema menus. So no BS, let's just dive straight into it. So the first thing that we're gonna do is we're going to access our menu. I'm gonna scroll over to the recording media setup. And I'm gonna go down and go to tab number 3. To access anything above 60 frames per second in the C80 and likely the C50 as well, you're going to have to go down into slow and fast motion. I'm gonna select that. And now I click on slow and fast frame rate. And now I have access to all of these frame rates, 72, 96, 48 frames, all these odd frame rates that you don't typically get if you're coming from the hybrid world. Right now, I'm going to select 120 frames per second. And now I'm going to go over here to my main recording format. Right now, I have selected XF AVC in 422 10-bit. And my frame rate for that is 2398. And you're like, what the heck, David? Why? Wait, so you have 2 frame rates selected? And the answer is yes. The way that slow and fast recording works is that you have a capture or a recording frame rate, and then you have a file or a project frame rate. So for example, I'm shooting in 120 frames per second, and then my project frame rate is 2398. The camera is going to record that footage internally, interpret it or conform it as if it was on a 2398 timeline. Fancy way of just saying that it's going to automatically in camera slow down that footage when you play it back. This is actually really useful, and cameras like Red do this as well. Now, some of you may have gone to the slow and fast frame rate section and not seen 120 frames per second. Now, why is that? That is because you need to have selected your main recording format in XF AVC, and then it needs to have the resolution set to a long GOP format, because if I select intra-frame, now you'll see I get a message from the camera saying slow and fast frame rate has dropped to 24 frames per second. I'm like, what the heck? I can't shoot 120 frames in intra-frame. And the answer to that is you cannot, at least in the Canon C80, cannot shoot anything higher than 30 frames per second in an intra-frame codec. So if I go back over here, I select my main resolution and I go down to UHD, but in long GOP, now I can go to my slow and fast frame rate, and I have access to everything above 60 frames per second all the way up to 120 frames. What happens if I go to RAW? Can I still shoot slow and fast? And you can see there it gave me the warning that it's going to revert to 24 frames. And if I click that again, you're going to see that the max in slow and fast motion in RAW is going to be 24 frames. Now that's for the Canon C80. It may differ for the C50 and other cameras. Just for comparison as well, I'm going to go down to HEVC-S in 10-bit 422, and I'm going to go to the slow and fast frame rates here, and I'm going to scroll all the way up just to see. Our max recording frame rate is going to be 120 frames per second as well. If you're having trouble accessing frame rates that you know exist, this would be the first place that I would start. Your main recording format needs to either be in XF AVC-S in a long GOP resolution or in XF HEVC-S. And either one of those will work. If you're trying to do an intra-frame or RAW, then you're going to be capped out at certain frame rates that aren't as high as the camera can record. The other caveat here is that you do not get audio in slow and fast recording. There is a separate setting where you have slow and fast recording as well as an audio WAV file. So a clip is recorded to one card, and then the audio file is recorded to another card. The problem here is that this is capped out at 60 frames per second, and the normal recording modes also go up to 60 frames per second and will give you audio just all in one clip. The footage won't be slowed down in camera, but you can always slow that down later on in post. So really, if you're trying to access audio with 120 frames per second, you're going to have to record it externally. You're not going to be able to do it in the camera. This may vary based on the camera body, but at least for the C80, it doesn't work where you can record audio internally at frame rates higher than 60 frames per second. Anyway, I hope that this informative tutorial has been helpful for you and ultimately gets you back out shooting and creating, because that's what we're all here for. My name is David J. Orozco, and I will catch you in the next one. Peace.